So we finally got some news in regards to AFL Evolution 2, with Wicked Witch coming out on their Facebook page and saying that unfortunately the game will be delayed once again until November/December of this year. Now that makes it the second delay for this game. It was originally supposed to release in the first half of the AFL season. That didn't happen, it got pushed back to the second half of the season, and now it's been pushed back again until December. As most of you are wondering, the game will feature a free DLC update for the 2020 season, so you won't have to pay any extra for any new content. That'll be probably lists, Guernseys, fixtures, simple stuff like that. Those new 2020 season updates will be free DLC. Now personally, I think this release date isn't all that bad. I think had the game released in September, you would have had probably 2 or 3 weeks of finals before the end of the season, and then you've got 6 months without any footy. Whereas this time, sure, it releases outside of the season, but there's only 2 or 3 months until the start of pre-season football. So in some respects, it makes it more like a game that's releasing a few months out from the start of the season, rather than a game that's releasing right at the end of the year, or at the end of the season, I guess. And from a sales point of view, I think they'll probably get a bit of a sales boost there. You'll have the initial Christmas sales, where a lot of parents and family members will be buying games for their young kids at Christmas, so they'll get that initial boost, and then they'll probably get another sales boost around the start of the 2020 season, both with the interest in the AFL then, and with the new content that they'll be adding to the game. So it kind of gives them 2 bites of the cherry in terms of sales. It puts Wicked Witch in between a rock and a hard place though, because had they released this game and not delayed it and released it as an unfinished mess, then they'd cop a lot of crap for that. But delaying the game not once but twice and releasing it almost 12 months later than when it was originally predicted to be released, that raises expectation. They have no excuse for it not to be perfect this time around. So it puts a lot of pressure on them, but I think it's probably for the best. You don't want an unfinished mess of a game being released when you could have delayed it. So, but it's a tough situation for them to be in. They've got to get it right this time. Now, over the course of this weekend, they also released 2 new screenshots, our first look at the game in action. This first screenshot is from North Melbourne versus Hawthorn at Marvel Stadium. A couple of things you can notice about this. One is the grass texture. I think we've seen this in some of the other clips they've released where the grass texture just looks a lot better. It looks a lot more realistic, and you wouldn't think that would be a huge difference, but if you go back and look at AFL Evolution 1 and its grass texture, it just looks a lot better. And that goes a long way to just making the overall look of the game look much better. So that's a real positive. You can also see in the background here, we've got actual graphics on the scoreboard. In Evolution 1, the scoreboard screens just basically showed exactly what the in-game camera was showing and nothing else. So to have some graphics on there will just make it look nice and a bit more realistic. Not that we see the scoreboards that much in game, but when you do, it'll just make it look a bit better. The crowds in these shots look a bit better. They look a bit more realistic, and that's a real positive. Obviously this is from a distance, so they may still look not great up close, but I think they look pretty good. Now something I like about this screenshot is the pack mark that they've got going on here. In Evolution 1, pack marks were essentially just a bunch of players standing side by side, and at most you could push off one player. It was essentially just one-on-ones standing next to each other. In this one it looks like, and this could be me just grasping at straws or jumping to conclusions, but it looks like it's a bunch of players that are all standing next to each other and that can all kind of interact and move with each other. It's not just they're standing there and they'll push off one player. It's all the players can bounce off and make contact with one another, which is much more realistic pack mark system. The big question is, can we have someone come in and crash the pack? We've got Todd Goldstein running in from behind. Can he come in and crash the pack there and really make that look interesting? That wasn't in Evolution 1. At most you could have someone take a specky on just one player's back. So are we going to get to see in Evolution 2 just a better kind of system where all players can kind of interact with each other in a marking contest and in a pack mark like this? There are some negatives from this screenshot. One is that a couple of these players, they look outdated, especially their hairstyles. A lot of people point out the mullet there, that he doesn't have the mullet anymore. You've got Jarman Impey there as well, who a lot of people are saying that it looks nothing like Jarman Impey. I think it does. It's just the fact that his hairstyle is much outdated to what he has now. So you'd expect these things to be fixed by release date though. Surely you'd want that to be right by the time they get this game out. Screenshot 2 is the one I like a bit better. It's the game between the Giants and the Swans at Giants Stadium on Saturday. I like this one better because obviously the first one was under the roof at Marvel. You can't really show off too many graphical improvements just with that. With this one though, we get an outdoor stadium, so we get to look at how all the lighting's looking with these, time of day effects. That's a big new feature that has been confirmed, is the day-night transition. So this is just basically the effect of the lighting and the time of day. So if you start a match during the day, the sun will gradually set throughout the game and it will finish in sort of the evening when the sun is setting. And if you start a game during that evening or twilight period, the first half will be played as the sun is going down, and then the second half will be played under lights at night. Now this is a small feature, but it does go a long way, I think, to making the overall look of the game visually just look much more realistic. Obviously in Evolution 1 we had the 3 time of day options, day, night and twilight, but there was no change of lighting or dynamic lighting, so this is a feature that I'm pretty excited about. And here in this screenshot we can start to see what that kind of looks like. The sun's going down, we see some lights in the background starting to turn on and take effect. So I think that's going to go a long way to making this game look a lot better visually. Some more little details we can see here is the creases on the Guernseys, a nice little addition to the textures there, which is a very small detail considering we'll mostly be seeing our players from afar. But when you get these close-up shots, it will make it look a little bit more realistic, and it's a nice little touch. Now, a big criticism of Evolution 1 was the constant one-on-ones. Players were always latched to their positions and, pretty much latched to their opponents. There wasn't much space or many players getting free and open. And in this one, it looks like we've got at least the Giants are outnumbering the number of Swans players on screen. But one thing that's interesting is the handball chain. This looks like the Giants are coming back from a counter-attack from the Swans forward 50, and they've got a handball chain going now. There wasn't too many times, from memory, maybe I'm getting this wrong, but from memory there wasn't too many times in Evolution 1 where you got handball chains going and players out on the fast break. The only time you saw that was when you basically had to leapfrog over defenders. Because defenders were always so closely attached to their man, you'd basically have to just have the player with the ball try and draw the defender to him, so then you could kind of handball over the top to your free player. And that's basically how it worked. But in this screenshot, at least from what we can see, it looks like that's not the case. It looks like these Giants players have broken out on the counter-attack and on the fast break, and they've got out into some space, which is exciting to think that we're going to have a bit less one-on-one, a bit less really close, tightly checked players, and there's going to be a bit more open space plays. We did see, if you go to the AFL Evolution Facebook page, we did see that day-night transition video, and you could kind of see a glimpse of gameplay that was happening down on the field below. It wasn't very clear because it was from such a distance, but it did kind of show that the gameplay is less players stuck to their positions and playing man on man, and it's a bit more kind of moving around the ground, all players kind of pushed into different pockets in the ground and stuff like that. So a bit more closer to reality essentially. So if that's what we're going to get to see, then that's pretty exciting to think about how that could change and revolutionize the gameplay. So overall, I'm pretty happy with these screenshots. I think it's looking great so far. There are some people who are being ridiculous and saying, oh, this looks no better than Evolution 1. I don't know if they haven't played Evolution 1 for a long time, but go back and compare that game to these screenshots and you'll see the massive graphical improvement that they've made. As we said, the delay is unfortunate, but hopefully it'll make for a more polished game. And hopefully we get to see more stuff, continually being released. Even if it's just more screenshots every weekend with the games from now until the end of the season. That's good, at least Wicked Witch give us something, give us some screenshots, maybe even give us some gameplay clips, just different stuff like that. Start revealing some features, show us some stuff. I think that's all we want, Another delay is disappointing, but if we get new content continually from now up until that release in November or December, then it'll make it a much shorter wait, I think, and it'll build the excitement and the anticipation. So guys, thanks for watching. Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. Are you disappointed that it's delayed, or do you think it'll make for a better quality game? And what do you think of these screenshots? Do you like them? Do you not like them? Let us know down below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't before. Hit that like button. But until next time, I'll see you later.